Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel, and I have a number of new comments and opinions from various attorneys on the topic of the SEC not giving, quote, fair notice regarding the status of XRP's literal status, legal status from the SEC's perspective to notable actors within the crypto space. I also have this article from Crypto Newsflash titled Ripple vs. SEC. Court approves case management plan and scheduling order. I've also got this piece from Decrypt titled New York is done with Tether, will other states follow? Well, how about that? In a video literally yesterday, I asked the exact same question. So many people don't understand that this is not some sort of final settlement for the legal determination of Tether. This was the state of New York saying, Tether, you did a bunch of bad stuff, pay us money, we'll stop going after you. That's the settlement. And there are another 49 states just in the United States here. And what if the federal government decides to do something here too? So I'm not taking a position as to whether or not Tether has done tremendous bad or good. I'm not taking a position on whether or not they're on the up and up or not. I just say at this point, it's still fair to ask questions. I'm absolutely willing to be persuaded by the facts. But there's a lot of evidence out there indicating that they haven't been acting entirely in good faith. And so just because a settlement was reached, it doesn't mean that Tether has always acted in good faith. It does not mean that there won't be other entities coming after them in the future, and they should be looking over their shoulder, frankly. And I'll not be surprised if more action comes, despite the fact that the Bitcoin maximalists are rejoicing now. I personally would prefer it to be the case. This isn't how life works, but it's just my preference doesn't just happen. But I would prefer for it to be the case that nothing be wrong with Tether so we can just go along with life uninterrupted. Because I'm not of the mindset as... There's a small percentage of the XP community that's of the mindset... that they would love for Tether to just go bust so that it would harm Bitcoin. And I'm thinking, holy hell, do you not understand that the market moves in tandem? Like, it would severely harm not just Bitcoin, but XRP, and pick your crypto. Is it going down in price? The answer is yes. So I don't want that to happen, right? I'm just speaking because I think it's there are perfectly rational questions to ask on this topic. I do want to be clear that I don't have a financial background of any kind. I'm not offering financial advice, and you should not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. And so there was a previous article from Crypto Newsflash titled Ripple vs. SEC Pre-Trial Conference Brings Out a Bombshell. And this is the indication, this is the first time we found out, just the other day, that there's a major cryptocurrency exchange asking specifically to the SEC, is it okay, effectively I'm paraphrasing here, but is it okay legally to sell XRP? We're already doing it. Is it okay to continue doing this? And the SEC didn't say no, right? And so that story from Crypto News Flash was retweeted by Stuart Alderodi, and I shared this particular tweet on the channel. I want to make sure I properly set the table, but there's all sorts of new stuff in here in this video. Stuart Alderodi is general counsel at Ripple, over 30 years of legal experience with expertise in banking, regulatory affairs, and complex litigation. And here's what he wrote on February 23rd, just a couple days ago. The law requires that persons of ordinary intelligence be given fair notice of what's prohibited. That's why it's important we learned that sophisticated parties, after engaging with the SEC, concluded that transacting in XRP wasn't prohibited, but in fact permitted. Well, how about that? Fair notice, and that is the key term. And my understanding at this point is that term, fair notice, is important from a legal perspective. Now, since I don't have any sort of legal background, I'm still learning along the way, and that's why I'm always thankful that there are a number of XRP community members who happen to be lawyers who are sharing their individual insights. Somebody named Saf Nav, if that's intended to be pronounced, tweeted to Stuart here and wrote, I actually wrote... and then parentheses writes, sent an email to the SEC in July 2018 and asked for clarity on the issue. All I got back was a copy-paste standard reply that didn't answer the question. Somebody named Danny responded, did the same in July 2019 and got a similar reply from one of their attorneys who said the SEC hadn't determined yet if XRP was a security.
Whether a cryptocurrency is considered a security, they said, will depend on the characteristics and use of the cryptocurrency. SafNav responded and wrote, the characteristics and use has always been out in the open for anyone to see. If it's not gross incompetence from the SEC, then what else could it be? Perhaps Chairman Clayton was not fit for the job he was entrusted with. Well, indeed, Jay Clayton is an asshat. So I think that indeed is the case. So good insight there, I would say. Now, Jesse Hines, an attorney who is pretty well known in the XRP community to this point, he's been pretty active and just sharing his opinions, open, honest opinions. Some sound good to the XRP community and some don't, which is why I appreciate that. Like, I don't need everything to be all puppies and rainbows and sunshine and all that crap. I just want the truth. Whatever's true, that's what I want to believe. And so he's been sharing his takes, whether they're positive or negative sounding for Ripple or XRP. And he does think that in a general sense, it seems that, XRP certainly is not a security and Ripple's on the right side of this thing, just generally speaking. But anyway, Jesse Hines here wrote to SafNav, who got an email from the SEC in July 2018. He says anyway, do you have a copy of the request and reply? It actually may be helpful to Ripple. And you can see John Deaton, another pro XRP attorney, wrote Jesse and SafNav, if you don't mind, please DM my box with email. I've been collecting things that may be used as potential exhibits. Thanks. And so it's just awesome that we have such an active XRP community and that a number of XRP community members are lawyers and that some of them are being vocal and taking action to the extent that they can. I just think that's awesome stuff. This is the XRP community is the best community in crypto. There is not a close second. I stand firm on that stance right now. And you can see here, ultimately, SafNav did get back in touch with Jesse Hines and said, what email address should I forward it to? And then Jesse just asked him to DM it to him. And hopefully he's got screenshots, if you have screenshots. Now, check this out, too. This is another attorney. His name, I'm going to butcher the last name, probably. I don't know how it's pronounced, but his name is James K. Phelan. Phelan sounds like it might make sense. I don't know. I'm doing my best here. If you, on the off chance you're listening, James, I'm sorry. I know I'm getting it wrong. All right. But he retweeted Jesse Hines' tweet asking if he could send over, if SafNav could send over a copy of that. And James Phelan, another attorney here, and by the way, from his bio, he writes, a defense lawyer, former federal prosecutor. And so what he said is, consider sending that to Senate Banking Commission. Mr. Gensler must be shown the email and asked directly how anyone can have fair notice when the SEC in 2019 tells a person of ordinary intelligence that the SEC itself hasn't yet determined whether XRP is a security. Individuals who want to hurt people and allegedly aid and abet breaking the law tend not to go to the government and essentially beg for guidance beforehand. The SEC has hurt many people with this ill-considered and wildly inconsistent enforcement action. I gotta hit the heart of both those. Absolutely. It's so good to hear this from the attorney. And it's hard to find attorneys that have opinions on the flip side. Although I did find it right here, and I'm not going to go through this because I had the video where I went pretty in-depth in this, but there's another attorney, Jake Chervinsky, who thinks that this fair notice thing is nonsense. Now, at the time, Jesse Hines used the term due process rather than fair notice, and so if that's an important aspect, in terms of which term you use from a legal perspective, that's fine. But the point is that there seems to be a clear legal problem that the SEC was approached by a major cryptocurrency exchange and they just let them keep going without any additional guidance. They didn't say that you couldn't trade XRP. And so here's what Jesse Hines wrote. This is from February 22nd. From the Ripple/SEC hearing, the biggest news drop was that the defendants have proof that the SEC has had discussions with many market actors and exchanges about XRP in 2019 and before, and never told them that XRP was a security or sold as a security. Huge due process issue. And then he wrote, allegedly have proof. And so Jake Chervinsky responded, and I just get just nothing personal against the guy at all. He's got 41,400 followers. He gets picked up by crypto media outlets all the time. And I've always gotten the feel that he's not pro Ripple and not pro XRP. And so he responded to Jesse highly critical. Now, being critical coming from like a thoughtful place where we just want to further ideas that are correct, that's to be encouraged. He acknowledged later in the thread that's not where he was coming from. He wrote down here, I don't know if I could find it. Well, maybe it doesn't matter. I covered it in my video, but he said that he was angry. He was coming from a place of anger. If I could quickly find it, I will highlight it. I swear, I'm absolutely certain that he said that. I could be missing it here. Or maybe it's on the screen and I'm just not seeing it. Oh, there. Oh, maybe that was it. I think I just saw it. Yeah, there we go. This makes me genuinely angry, and I'm not trying to hide that. So there you go. So it's hard to have a thoughtful and honest conversation with a person that isn't just trying to be open and honest, and understand that people can believe things and share their opinion, and that opinion could be wrong. So even if he believes that Jesse's wrong, I don't like the approach, because it's just coming from a place of anger. I just think that's counterproductive. And so unless you really firmly believe, and I don't believe this, I think Jesse Hines operating in good faith. I appreciate what he's doing, but unless you think he's actually out to deceive people, no, this is not a reasonable approach to anything in life. I think it's counterproductive and immature. And so here's what he wrote, though, in response to that. Jake Chervinsky wrote, "This isn't remotely accurate. It could be a due process issue if the SEC did make those accusations before finishing its investigation and going through the formal charging process. It's insane to want the government to jump to conclusions before the investigation is done." Then he's got a little facepalm emoji. And from a legal perspective, I certainly cannot speak to that. But from a logical perspective, it seems crazy to me that this isn't somehow wrong, given that the SEC's had 8 years. They had 8 years to go after Ripple, and they didn't until the tail end of 2020. After being in touch on a weekly basis with Ripple executives, with Ripple being completely transparent about all the actions that they were taking, they didn't go after them. And so to say that the investigation isn't done, it's not okay to say there's an issue whether you want to say fair notice or due process. It's not fair because the SEC wasn't done. From a logical perspective, that doesn't make sense, especially given that we know the SEC went after ICOs, initial coin offerings, in 2017, shortly after they launched. They figured out those pretty damn quick, but you're telling me that after 8 years, they couldn't get their act together and decide that it was time to go after Ripple for selling an XRP as an unregistered security? From a logical perspective, that doesn't make sense. I can't speak from a legal perspective, but logically, that just doesn't ring sensical to me. It just absolutely does not. Now, here's a piece from Crypto News Flash. Ripple vs. SEC. Court approves case management plan and scheduling order. Attorney James Fallon has shared via Twitter the civil case management and scheduling order document for the Ripple vs. the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission lawsuit. The document approved by Southern District of New York Judge Annalisa, did I say that right? Annalisa Torres, I think so, shows the roadmap the case will follow in the coming months. The court order indicates that the period in which new parties may enter the lawsuit is now closed unless there is a court order for which the parties have a 30-day period to apply. And in addition, it is revealed that the initial disclosure should be completed within the next 2 weeks. And then they also cited here as well, the court has ordered that the initial discovery phase be completed by July 2nd, 2021. I happen to remember off the top of my head that discovery was going through August 16th of 2021. So I don't know if it's just from a technical perspective that there's just more than one phase, and so they're not saying that it's all over by July 2nd, or if the date changed. I read this thing and I just don't have clarity on that. We need to ask a lawyer. So I don't know if the date moved up, in which case that would be fascinating, because that might mean, if so, and that's an if, I don't know, that could mean that settlement could come sooner, because until the discovery phase process is complete, it's been made clear to me by attorneys that have been talking about this, until you know what the other side has, you're not going to know what you'd be willing to settle on. You want to see the ammunition from the other side. So, meaning if we see the discovery phase, if it's actually 100% complete, there's not a phase after this, after July 2nd, 2021, that could possibly mean we'll see a settlement sooner than later, if it's going to come. So we'll just have to stay tuned on that. I don't know the answer, but just worth mentioning. And I wanted to cite this too. Gary Gensler, he's probably going to be the next SEC chair. He's the one that's been nominated. And so here you can see the United States Senate Committee on Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs. They already have this placeholder set up. And so it looks like you'll be able to watch this. You can live stream this, his hearing, the nomination hearing, Tuesday, March 2nd, 2021 at 10 a.m. And they didn't write what time zone on this particular page. Whatever. Get your act together, government. But it'll be neat.
So if I'm free, I actually will probably check this out because I suspect cryptocurrency is going to come up at some point. It would be interesting if we can glean any insight from him at that point and get a feel for his current take on any aspect of the cryptocurrency asset class and how it might be regulated. Not that I expect, something specifically about Ripple to pop up, but anything we can learn from the incoming SEC chair, assuming he's ultimately approved, that would be valuable. And then real quick on this, I mentioned this in a video just the other day, so I'll just be brief here, but I don't think this thing with Tether is over. So this is from Decrypt. New York is done with Tether. Will other states follow? On Tuesday, iFinex, the parent company of cryptocurrency exchange Bitfinex and stablecoin issuer Tether, settled a 2-year-old investigation brought by the New York State Attorney General. While the company is publicly celebrating that its stablecoin and exchange can move past this episode, legal experts say iFinex could remain under scrutiny from other state attorney generals and the Department of Justice. Bam! That is exactly what I said the other day. Just logic would dictate being aware that this is one state out of 50. Why wouldn't the others necessarily jump in? It's not a certainty they will, and let me go on a little bit further here, but don't be surprised if we see more fireworks. New York's case against iFinex dates back to April 2019 after the Attorney General alleged Bitfinex illegally used an $850 million loan from Tether to patch over missing funds. In the process, Tether reduced the dollars it held in reserve. Importantly, the firm at the time had claimed its Tether stablecoin, designed to hold its value, was backed 1-to-1 by the US dollar, though it now says its reserves include other assets. As part of yesterday's settlement, Tether and Bitfinex must cease doing business with New York citizens and companies and submit quarterly reports documenting their reserves. And now think about that. This is a settlement. Tether is no longer allowed to trade. It is no longer allowed to operate in the state of New York, and the Bitcoin maximalists are insisting this is a victory. What? Does that make logical sense? Does it? And it's one state out of 50 and the federal government hasn't come after it. It doesn't mean it will. And I'm not saying that this would collapse the market. I don't know that it would. I'm just trying to be as unbiased as possible because I don't want it to be, I'd prefer for it to be the case actually, if anything, that they not have done anything legally wrong and that they're in the clear. Like I would prefer that. But that's not how life works. Just because I want it to be true, I'm not going to present a narrative on this channel as though it's fact and as though it's unreasonable to question stuff. That's what maximalists do. That's what people do that are disingenuous. That's what people do that want to drive a narrative. I hate it. I hate that crap. I don't want to operate like that in life. I just want to believe whatever the hell is true. And all the maximalists that are saying, yeah, this is good, they're just living in fantasy land. This isn't good. This isn't good for Tether. Hell no. I mean, it's only part of it's good in that New York's not coming after him anymore, but the rest of it's bad. And there's a lot to it. I'm not going to go in depth in this video, but I did just the other day. And so right here, it will also pay, the Tether will pay $18.5 million without admitting wrongdoing. So done and dusted, right? At least that's how some of the more vocal cryptocurrency proponents saw it. But New York isn't the only government with the power to investigate Tether and Bitfinex. Mark Boron, who recently joined crypto lending platform DYDX as general counsel, admitted that he didn't have strong views on state prosecutors' future plans, but he said future investigations remain a possibility. Well, how about that? My gosh, even without hearing it from any sort of person in the know or with a legal background or this or that, even I just reading it as a layperson myself yesterday, I was like, well, how could this be done? And that's why I said it on the channel. Like, how could it be done? It doesn't make sense. And so here's a quote. My expectation would be that every other state attorney general would wait to see how Tether handles the requirements imposed in the settlements, especially with respect to disclosures around reserves. He told Decrypt. If they are not satisfied with those disclosures, then I could certainly see them taking action. So look, there you go. That's the quote. And this indeed may not be done. We'll just have to wait and see. So just don't let Bitcoin maxi trolls that really want to drive this narrative that there's nothing to see here, don't let that influence you. Just keep your own open mind. I don't know what's true or isn't true at this point. I'm just saying I think it's perfectly reasonable to ask questions about this, and I'm not indicating that it would be the end of the world even if Tether's in the wrong, but don't try and shut this up. I don't like that. It's so disingenuous. I will wrap up there, though. I am not a financial advisor. Do not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.